we had a big party, and the pledge class was allowed to drink because we did so well during the homecoming week celebration.
It was really an intense week.
We ended up having, but they allowed the freshmen to drink. Johnny was one of my pledge brothers. I remember meeting him.
At that moment in time, I was actually his roommate for the 2 weeks.
We weren't supposed to drink during pledgeship. It was just something our fraternity put against. Obviously, no one's supposed to drink under the age of 21, but at college campuses, pretty much most people do.
And Johnny just came out of the shower, and I think he had a beer in his hand. I was like, oh, hey, how's it going? He's like, oh, good, just having a drink. I was like, okay, we're going out to dinner, we'll see you when we get back. And he was like, okay, sounds good. So we left. And then a few hours later, I forget, given the time lapse, I forget what time it was. I think it was probably 11 or 12 or something, maybe a little later. One of our fraternity brothers came and got me, and someone was carrying him back in.
He was very intoxicated at that point. He actually had a bottle of, I think it was either Jägermeister or Goldschlager in his hand, and he wanted to keep going and partying. He was about to leave the house to go out and party some more.
He'd been gone for so long that we had no idea what he drank. So we took him in, and he was obviously really drunk, so he was slurred speech. His eyes were kind of all over the place. But we felt that, oh, he's just really, really drunk.
Studying in the cold dorm for most of the night for my calculus exam.
Because Stephen was the DD for all the alumni, because they were not everyone was staying in the fraternity house. A lot of people were traveling to like the nearby hotels.
We put a mattress down in front of my bed because I was in the room already studying.
And we decided that it was probably best if we just laid him on that mattress right there and let him kind of sleep it off.
And it was mainly in case he like threw up or something, and make sure that he was able to, nothing would block his airway.
We just kind of popped our head in, we were like, oh, is he doing okay? And he was like, yeah, he's fine, he's snoring and stuff. So we were like, no problem.
I actually had to go drive some of the alumni and stuff that were visiting the house home. So when I got back around 3 a.m., I did one more check on Johnny, and everything seemed fine to me. He was still breathing. He was, even though it was that like, that breath, the breathing still haunts me. It was like a rattling like sound when he was breathing. And his eyes were open and bloodshot, and now I know a lot of those are classic signs of alcohol poisoning. He had shallow breath, but he was still breathing like heavily, but it was like this raspy breath, and it was just yeah. Again, if I knew then what I knew now, I wish I could have called.
What if we would have done things a little differently, even just calling an ambulance. Well, I heard a siren when I woke up.
I wake up and I see Johnny just laying there, and I nudge him and try and shake him awake, and nothing's happening. And there's this pool of brown stuff next to his head, and I just basically froze and broke down. I just walked towards the exit of the room. One of my other fraternity brothers started doing CPR on him, and it was just too late.
My last vision of him is being drunk, okay? But it's not as bad as having that visual of him dead. Everyone who's seen that, I don't think you can ever get that image out of your head.
Next thing I know, I see a body bag walking out on a stretcher out the back door of our fraternity house.
I kind of broke down a little bit because as an 18-year-old, the last thing you would expect to have is a friend die from drinking.
Unfortunately, at the time, I didn't really know the signs of alcohol poisoning, or else I would have called 911.
It's always a judgment decision, and when you're 18, you make a snap decision, and it happens to be the wrong one, and you, I guess, have to live with that for the rest of your life.
That was honestly the worst decision I've ever made in my life.
And I think there was probably a fear as well. There was probably a fear of getting into trouble.
No one will call because they're so scared.
It's literally exactly what happened to my friend. He was left out in the yard. And that was it. Nothing. No call, no one did anything. They said if they would have called 15 minutes earlier, he'd still be alive today. It was my junior year summer when I heard of Brett's passing. So it was literally probably right around when the law was started. People are too afraid to call their parents and talk to their parents about it because they think they're going to get in trouble.
My first reaction to whether or not I should leave a voicemail, I was like, God, if Brett wakes up and he knows I called his parents, I was like, Brett would kill me.
Because of one night, Brett will not be a freshman. He will be an organ donor.
As an 18-year-old, your first thought is, it's poor me. This is so bad. I'm really upset. I can't believe this has happened to me. And I can't believe Johnny's died. But then you see what the Finlands have done, and they were able to turn that grief into something that's really going to change lives.
Knowing the signs of alcohol poisoning, knowing that when something's wrong to call, knowing about the Lifeline Law saves lives.
Which is why this whole law is in place, is to help make other people call out and reach out because people are too scared. We went to different colleges, and yeah, we stayed in touch, you know.
I had a free weekend to do whatever, so I made a trip up there.
You know, we started off the night, you know, having a couple drinks.
Then we heard of a party going on at another house, so we went over there.
I ended up losing him, and we ended up meeting back about an hour or two later, and he was definitely in a different condition.
I remember moments. The rest of the night is pretty much a big blur.
When he started getting sick, that's when he was really unresponsive, you know, and that's whenever we decided to make the call. But now that there's actually the Lifeline Law that's in place now, which is if you make the call, stay there, be responsive with the officers, and be compliant with their actions, then you are immune.
It was definitely good that Mitch knew all about the Lifeline Law. I remember blowing into the breathalyzer just to see how bad I was, and then I remember getting into the ambulance. I remember waking up in the hospital with an IV in my arm. Well, at first, you have the typical college kid reaction like, wow, that was a crazy party. And then all of a sudden, it hits you like, wow, that was a crazy party, and that was the biggest mistake of my life.
If you know what the signs of alcohol poisoning are, you can save countless lives.
Parents might fall into the same trap as the children, in that it's not going to happen to our children because we've taught them better than that.
It really helped out a lot that Mitch was there, and it actually saved my life.
We rented out a cinema, and we had the Senator Merritt there, which is the senator who passed the Lifeline Law, and we had a bunch of my friends there, a bunch of people came, and we helped spread the word. You know, it's great to get out there and reach as many people as possible. With
him knowing about the Lifeline Law and all his knowledge, I definitely wouldn't be here today if he wasn't with me that night. My mom was definitely glad I was alive.
Funding Make Good Decisions to help get that message out there is critical for both our community here in Indiana, but also across the country.
And I'm just really happy that I get the opportunity to help, even if it's just a little bit. Even if it's just this one interview or that one talk at Wabash, then you know that you're, and I'm sure, and I can guarantee that every single member of the Delta Tau Delta fraternity would be happy to contribute in any way to this cause because of what they want to.
I think that everyone should support Make Good Decisions, and just getting the knowledge out there about the Lifeline Law, about the signs of alcohol poisoning, about calling someone when you see those signs of alcohol poisoning. This organization I know has saved countless lives already just by getting that message out there.